Hey, what's up, everybody? Jeff Jurina here, and welcome to the Men Unplugged Show. On today's episode, I'm going to be talking about something that we all deal with. It's this issue of calling. You know that question that you ask yourself where you're like, God, what have you designed me to do? How do you want me to impact others for good and for your glory? And when we get that right, when we know without a shadow of a doubt that we're living out that calling, things, they just seem brighter. You know, you just seem a little happier, like life is not that bad. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about one key component of how you can clarify your calling. And in doing so, you're going to embrace and engage in who you really are. Now, before we jump into that discussion, I want to make two quick announcements. The first one is to let you know that I'm hosting a free webinar on August 30th at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. And in this webinar, I'm going to go over my training on this topic. It's my one-on-one and group training that I offer called Clarify Your Calling. In this training, I'm going to be going over the benefits of clarifying your calling, as well as some actionable steps that you can take right now to start living that out. So to register for the free webinar, visit menunplugged.net/calling, that's CALLING, and click the Save My Spot button. Now, once you enter your name and email address, by August 27th, your seat is going to be reserved for that webinar on the 30th. Now, if you can't wait until the webinar to clarify your calling, you can set up a coaching call with me to discuss one-on-one or group training right away. So to do that, go to that same page at menunplugged.net/calling and click the button that says Can't Wait, Schedule a Coaching Call. Now, the second announcement I want to tell you about is my speaking and training opportunities. And really, it's just to let you know that I'm looking to partner with churches, ministries, schools, or companies that are ready for their organizations and the people that they influence to go the next level in their faith and their life. Now, more specifically, I love to partner with you guys in one of my trainings or keynotes. Now, if that describes you or someone else that you know, please reach out to me at jeff@menunplugged.net. All right, let's cue the intro. So the big question is this: how do we as warriors of Jesus Christ, men of God who want to stay battle ready, who want to honor the Lord, and who want to grow in our daily walk, unplug from those things that weigh us down so we can ignite our faith, strengthen our family, and ultimately succeed in every aspect of life? That is the question, and this show will give you the answers. My name is Jeff Jurina, and welcome to Men Unplugged. Hey, welcome back, everybody. I'm just going to dive right into the topic today and let you know that this idea for this episode really hit me 2 weeks ago. It was on my birthday, July 28th, when I turned 50. That's right. It's crazy, right? I'm 50 years old. I mean, my wife, or I think it was my wife who reminded me, or it was my mom, who reminded me that, now I've lived half a century. I was like, thanks for that. But anyway, when I turned 50 on that day, I just started thinking about my life up to that point. What is it that I want to be remembered for? What kind of legacy do I want to leave my children? And this idea of impact kept popping in my head. And I realized that every time I can impact someone else in a positive way, I get fired up. I mean, it really motivates me. And that's the main reason why I run this show. It's the same reason why I write books and I speak. And my hope is that in some small way, I can make someone's life better. And hopefully, I'm doing that for you in this episode or another episode or one of my books or speaking and training forums, whatever that is. I hope in some small way, it's making your life better. More than anything, that it helps you draw closer to God and live out the vision that He has for your life. So with that, it made me realize that although I've spoken about purpose on other episodes and I even offer this type of coaching, I realize that oftentimes, we just get calling and purpose confused. And when in actuality, they go hand in hand. Now, it is true that your calling can be different than your purpose. In fact, you may have heard me say this on another episode, that purpose may not lead to profit. When I first realized that years ago, that was a tough pill to swallow. And you may be dealing with this right now, where you're in a situation where maybe you're out of work but what you're doing is really impacting others for good and for God's glory. And kind of what you're doing here is this is your calling. But before I really get into that, I just want to say here that yes, when we find out that our purpose may not lead to profit, that is a very difficult thing to accept. And if you're dealing with that, I would let you know, I want to encourage you that yes, there is a reason for it. Although you may not see it right now, God has, no pun intended here, God has a purpose for that. And ultimately, our ultimate purpose here is to glorify God. But for the sake of confusion, I want to spend today's episode talking about calling, at least one specific aspect of that, because understanding your calling, in my opinion, is going to help you pursue your purpose a lot easier. Now, before we talk about this one component that will help you clarify your calling, I want to talk about real quick here, I'm talking about less than a minute, how we can look at calling and purpose. And in doing this, I hope it's going to help you see the difference between the two. So if we think about it this way, calling is the thing or things that God gives us to do in life in order to carry out our purpose. You see, God gives each and every one of us different callings. It includes our occupation or the work that God calls us to do. It includes using your talents and abilities in whatever ways and wherever God chooses to use you. This could be as a volunteer in the community, your church, or even in a ministry like Men Unplugged. Our calling is a unique means that we individually fulfill the purpose for which God created us. You see, calling is not an end, it's a means to an end. And remember, that end, as we talked about earlier, is glorifying God in all that we do. And hopefully that helps. So let's move on to a key ingredient of clarifying your calling. It's a component of passion. What I mean by passion is, what is it that you're passionate about? In other words, what is it that motivates or drives you? You know, that idea, career, cause, product, or activity that you could joyfully and emphatically talk about for hours? Quite often, this is the area in your life that you spend the most time reading or learning about. It's that thing that when you're talking to someone, you know what lights them up, what gets them fired up, what gets them up in the morning. I mean, they're really here, when you think about it, there's no guessing. Now, in order to really fulfill your calling, you need to have this component figured out. You need to be really clear on what it is, because if you don't, you can spend days, months, or even years working in a job or doing something that, it's making you miserable. And if you're in this situation now, or maybe you were in the past, you may be able to relate with this. It can put a strain on your relationships. It can put a strain on your relationship with God. Trust me, I know from personal experience that when I start shifting away from my passions and really my calling, I'm not as happy. I'm a little bit more grumpy, and everyone takes that heat, unfortunately. So think of passion as your fuel that drives your calling forward. It's kind of like the spark, the catalyst. And more times than not, it's going to push you in a certain direction, or at the very least, cause you to think in a certain direction or calling. So to help you determine your passion, I want to share a few questions and a quick exercise from my Clarify Your Calling training to help you do that. Number one, what are you excited to talk about? Secondly, what do you enjoy reading or learning about? Next, what is that thought or idea that you continually think about? Here's another question you can ask. If you could do something for free, what would it be? Is there an issue that every time you hear about it, you wish there was a solution? And here's the last question I want to give you here, just to kind of help you clarify your passion. Is there a certain people group that you have a desire to help or work with? As you're thinking about these questions, and if you're in a spot where you can write, or maybe you're stopped right now and you're not driving, please do this when you're not driving. But if you're in a safe spot, I'm just going to go over a quick exercise here. It's an action step that you can take right now. And if for some reason you're not in a spot where you can stop, I would just say pause this, come back to it. Maybe you're in your office or something like that, or maybe you're just sitting down outside at a park or working out, whatever that is, wherever you can write this down. Take a sheet of paper and draw a line vertically down the middle. And on the left side, write down the things, ideas, jobs, and activities that you're excited about, that you really get motivated about. After that, write down in the right column from your previous list the items that you would do for free. Okay? So you've got that left side column, all those things. On the right side column, right side of that line, that vertical line, I want you to write down those things that you would do for free. Now, the next thing I want you to do is repeat these steps, narrowing it down to no more than 3 items on that right side column. And as you're looking at that, when you finish that, these are the areas that make up what I like to call your passion core. Now, if for some reason you have more than 3 items, no big deal. When time permits, just, come back to the activity again with the goal of trying to narrow your list to no more than 5. All right, I hope that helps. As we close out today's episode, I want to leave you with the scripture passage and a final reminder to sign up for that free Clarify Your Calling webinar today so you can connect to your true self, discover your strengths, clarify your passions, live with maximum impact, and live out your true God-given design. To sign up for that free webinar on August 30th, 2021, visit menunplugged.net/calling. That's CALLING. And to connect with me for my speaking and training opportunities that I offer for free, send me an email at jeff@menunplugged.net. Now, before we close it down here, I'm going to read that passage for you, and it comes from Ephesians 4, verses 1 through 6. The Apostle Paul says this. He says, "As a prisoner for the Lord, then, I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you have received. Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. There is one body and one Spirit, just as you were called to one hope when you were called. One Lord, one faith, one baptism. One God and Father of all, who is over all and through all and in all."
Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. There's plenty more to see at menunplugged.net, including key resources and ways to engage with Jeff in his training and speaking forums. While there, don't forget to subscribe and receive a free gift. We look forward to you joining us next time here on the Men Unplugged Show.